Hello, everyone. Good, good. I'm assuming we're still waiting for more board members. All right. Well, let me know and I'll be ready. All right, you guys will be live in a couple seconds. You are live.
Very interesting. Probably not in the cards, though. Just saying. How's everybody tonight? Marvelous. So, thanks for all coming, or else we wouldn't have had a meeting tonight. It was really last minute. Melissa and Mark said, hey, I can't make it tonight. Geez, I'm scrambling going.
Have a court.
What do we need? Rebecca, what do we need? We're all here early, but I don't want to start before
6 o'clock.
6.
Oh, yeah?
Holy cow.
We've been eagerly awaiting your arrival.
Why did it tell me? I gotta change that to 6:30.
Yeah, it comes when that.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, shoot. We ready? Yeah. We're ready,
Yep.
okay. Thank you. We will open up today's meeting, Wednesday, October 15, 2025. The Finance Board will call to order at 6:29. Oh, Mark is not here, so I don't know if he did any of the minutes. He hasn't forwarded it to me.
You sent them all
Yeah.
last night?
Oh, he sent them last night?
Yes, sir.
Yep, you can use those
I wonder where he sent them.
by email. I got those by email.
Yeah, I emailed him today, or he emailed me, but he didn't email my work email, so I don't know where it went.
Well, you can have that. I got a
Yeah.
copy.
I'll have to go. All right. So we have the minutes from September 17, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted from the meeting on September 17th, 2025.
And I have read through them also, and I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And Jim, I believe you have to abstain from that one because you weren't there. All right, 3-1. Oh, problem. Mark is our secretary. Who's going to take notes?
I got it.
You got it?
Sure.
Oh, man, you look at this guy stepping up to the plate. Regular Kike Hernandez, the way you're playing.
Well, we have the transcription from the meeting anyway, if we needed to, so any one of us could have.
I have to make sure that's forwarded to you.
Awesome. All right, so moving right along, let's get to the year-end update with Art, how and accounting. Yeah, go ahead. Do whatever makes you comfortable. Take it away.
Okay, FY '25 was a wonderful year. We can just go to the agenda, yeah. So we're gonna go over a quick revenue and expenditure overview. Then we'll discuss free cash, some key metrics from our finance policy and where we stand with those, and then some financial objectives. So for revenue, can't really see it that good, huh? The general overview is that we came in total revenue 800,000 over budget. We still have, you can go to the next slide, because I'll talk about it in more detail.
How about we stop there for a second? $800,000?
Well, that's what I'm gonna talk about next.
Okay.
So we still have, our collection rate went up from about 98 to 99%. So that's, treasurer collector's office still doing amazing there. The bulk of our overage is in local receipts. There was some money from state aid. They had like an FY '23 supplemental monies that they gave out, so there was a little bit more there as well. But the bulk of it is in local receipts, which are the same offenders that we always get, or I guess I shouldn't say offenders because it's a good thing. But it's motor vehicle excise, came in way over budget. I'm struggling because I can't really see that either. Sorry, I can't see that screen.
Is that because people
All
are
right.
purchasing new cars, excise tax?
Car prices, purchasing new cars, it came in $288,000 over budget. This is also, this is sort of how you plan. This is where you cannot affect the tax rate, but I guess bring in extra dollars, that you do it in your local receipts. We're not gonna, have an override or anything like that, and we need our budget to be balanced. And local receipts are one-time funds. They're not guaranteed. So you never want to budget for anything higher than a 5-year average or what you brought in prior year. And you usually go for whichever one is lower. So if you budget very conservatively in your local receipts, then you can get some free cash and without affecting your tax rate. So motor vehicle excise came in about 288 over budget. And these are always the categories that come in over because there's a lot of unknown with them. So you have to kind of, with revenue, you have to do contingencies the opposite way of expenses. You don't want to over budget there because if it doesn't come in, you're in trouble. So you're not under budgeting, but you're taking the lower of those, the 5-year average or what you brought in last year. And by taking the lower, it kind of gives you that contingency so you never come in under. And licenses and permits, that came in 286 over budget. I think that was because Daley ended up permitting more than we thought he would when we were putting the budget together.
And that's the
And-
development for Sewell Street.
Yes, sorry, Sewell Street Development. And then investment income. There's varying reports on interest rate. They keep saying it's going to go down, it's going to go down. It'll dip a little, come back. So again, you have to budget conservatively there. That came in 180,000 over budget. And those are the main, it doesn't add up completely to the 8, but like with, smaller things, the state giving us that supplemental money, that's where you get your 800,000. And then this is the expenditure summary. Expenditures, we came in under $645. And the areas, you can go to the next one, it's probably easier to see. Not much. The areas where that came in, I'm gonna have to read that. Under were general government was 288, and that was mainly because, again, general government is where you're gonna have contingencies. It's where we have our reserve funds, which we did not need. You have to build small contingencies into legal, into insurance. We had a little bit of turnover, not as much as the previous year, but that's going to affect all your insurance. You have to build contingencies into your property and casualty insurance. luckily, we didn't have any claims this year, so we didn't end up having to use those things. So that was 288. Public safety was 157. Oh, I should state, Steve came in about 20,000 utilities under again. I have to give Steve props for that, and his supplies actually came in really well, too.
What's happened to the neighbor across the street? I mean,
I don't know.
You negotiated some rates with the gas companies
Yeah.
when we were going through, and that did save a lot of money versus what we were originally with.
yeah.
Yep. And we had, I think, about 20 to 27,000 for a part-time conservation agent that we did not fill. And then public safety, we came in 157 under budget, 157,000. That they did have a little transition and turnover. With the transition into rec, they didn't hire as many dispatchers, and some of the officers are covering, so that again affects all your insurances. It affects the dispatch budget, comes in a little under. And PD actually did great in fuel. I'm assuming it's because they have officers covering dispatch, so they don't have as many on patrol. But the chief would be able to speak better to that. And there was a reduction in fire call wages. And then education came in 70,000 under budget because the Essex Tech final assessment was lower than expected. We don't get that until after we set the budget and after town meeting, so again, we have to be careful how we set that because you're in trouble if you set it too low. And then Public Works, we did not end up needing a $15,000 tree warden budget. We had a really mild winter, which again contributes to not needing the tree warden budget. It contributes to having money left over in snow and ice. We had money left over in the trash budget. Again, somewhere you have to build contingencies. We don't really know how much trash people are gonna throw away, so we can do our best. And there were some position changes in cemetery, and they only ended up hiring, I think, we needed one seasonal for the summer, and then in the winter, there was a reduction in hours for the full-timer who he asked for that. So, we at 9/18, we got a free cash approved, and it is 1.894961. $1,894,961. And how we know that that is correct is, again, you look at your total revenue overages of 800,000, your total expense underages? What we saved in expenses is 645,000, and then our intentional, following our finance policy of leaving some free cash behind. You're never supposed to spend it all of 353, and that gets you to your 1.8. So that's just sort of a quick test that you do to make sure it looks right.
Excuse me, will we have access to this?
Yes, I can send this all to you. I
Okay,
didn't
thank you.
realize it would look that small. I do apologize. So in looking at free cash a little closer, our free cash goals are that the unappropriated balance, so the balance we do not use to maintain, is 3 to 5% of our annual general fund budget. And then you can appropriate anything in excess of this 3 to 5%. And you should always, always, always avoid using free cash annually to reduce the tax rate or for anything more than one-time funds. Because if you use one-time monies for annual expenses, you are going to be in trouble in the long run, because those expenses are happening every year, but those funds are not going to be there every year. So the annual general fund budget for FY25 was 23.7 million. So our free cash certification is the 1.8, and then that is just shy of 8% of the annual general fund operating budget. If we were to leave 3% of that free cash behind, it would be 713,000, and 5% would be 1,187,000. So those are the amounts that we should not appropriate. You can take something in the middle, you can go with the lowest, it just depends on what your capital needs. what you want to put in your reserves, like stabilization. So you kind of have to analyze that, but those are numbers you want to use when you do your analysis. And so the amount that is available to appropriate, if we leave 3% behind, we have almost 1.2 to appropriate. If we leave 5% of free cash behind, we would have 700,000 to appropriate. And that would be all your capital budget, one-time items that people need. So then going on to the metrics. The financial reserves are, the first one is stabilization as a percent of your operating budget. It should be 5% of your operating budget. Last year we were 7, this year we're 7.7, 7.6. So we are heading in the right direction, and mind you, the goal of that 5%, that's sort of a minimum. You really want your reserves much, much higher, because when those emergencies happen and it's like you have to come up with millions of dollars, okay, we have it, and then we still have some left behind, so we're not in trouble years later. We can build it back up, but still have a little bit of cushion. So we are meeting the goal, but our reserves could still be much higher, especially capital, which capital as a percent of your operating budget should be 2 to 4%. We actually reached 2 this year, which was kind of exciting. We've always been under. But it is also supposed to be the total amount of our asset depreciation from our financial statements. So when we book depreciation, it's 1.1 million, and that means we have to add an additional 500,000 to capital, because we're only at about 500,000 this year. So we're still a little short there. Percent, it looks good, but we've got to get it a little higher. We actually have to get a lot higher, because we have a lot of schools and buildings that are aging that we're involved with, that, as you all know, have been coming to look for money or start projects. So it would be good to have a lot of reserves in that area.
At least there's one building that's not aging.
What's that?
There's one building that's not aging.
What's that, Pentucket?
Yeah,
We just built it.
we just built it.
I know, but we all know Whittier has to do something, and these buildings are aging, and, you know,
Whittier's gonna be
A hard sell.
it's just good to have reserves in place
listen.
when these things come.
I'm all for banking money, believe me.
And then your total reserves, meaning your free cash, all your stabilization funds, should be 10 to 14% of your operating budget. And we did reach the 14 last year, and we're up to about 18. But again, those are minimums. You really want it a lot higher. OPEB funding goals, they're the same. To put the 85 in until we're fully funded, and then that 85 should go into retirement, so we never fall below the funding, because that funding's always gonna change with the market. When we get the actuary report, they tell us what our funding's supposed to be, and if anything changes in the market, you don't wanna just meet last year's, because the second the market changed, now you're underfunded again. So you wanna have a little bit more in there. But we're meeting the 85 every year and working toward that. And then the last metrics all relate to our capital and our debt, you know, how much of that is funded with debt and what the goals should be. So obviously, if you build a very large building, it is going to skew these in the opposite direction you want to go to, and that's the way that it works, and that's okay. It's as long as they start going back down. So your capital investment funding level, and these are all, again, percentages of your operating budget, should be 3 to 5%. We were at 13 last year, we're at 12 this year. That is with the town and the school. For the town only, we were just under 3 last year, we're at 2.2 this year. So again, we have not brought on any new debt, we're just paying down what we have. And then with the school only, they were at 19.7 last year, and now we're at 19.2. So again, big project comes in, those are gonna skyrocket, but then you just wanna see them slowly going down, and you don't take on new debt until you see those get to the goal level. And then the debt limits, so your debt service, which is your annual payments within the budget, they should be 5 to 7% of your operating budget, and the max limit is 10%. So we were at 11 last year, and we're at 10.3 this year. So again, moving in the right direction. And then, I actually liked seeing this one. Your total outstanding debt, 50% of that should be paid off within 10 years. So if you look at all your payments and you line them up when they get paid off, 50% of it should be within the 10-year period. And we were at 38% last year, and we're at 40 this year. So again, we're almost there. We're moving in the right direction. And then our financial objectives, our short-term objectives are to have all our annual expenses funded within the operating budget. So that would be things that we always vote for free cash, but are there every single year. So OPEB, it's in our operating budget, but we use free cash to fund it, to reduce the tax rate by OPEB. The 85 isn't going away even when we're fully funding. It's always recommended to put it back into that. That cost is not going away. So we should really strive to get things like that. We do buy a cruiser every year. We should strive to get that into the annual budget. MS4. So we're looking at some analysis to see what we can do to start making moves towards that. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can do little bits over time. We want to continue to maintain our annual free cash goals, because as you can see, our free cash keeps going up. And again, those are things that we actually try to plan for and make happen without affecting the tax rate. So we want to continue to do that. And then we want to have minimal to no increases in debt. So I do know we have to do the roofs. We are probably going to have to go out for debt for that, but that shouldn't be a ton. It's not like it's a $44 million project. It's like 1.3 or something. So that would be minimal. Not ideal, but minimal. So I think the town portion will still stay close to within those goal ranges if we go for that. And then long-term, we want to continue to maintain our collection rates. We want to increase our reserves as much as we can, get OPEB fully funded, and continue to focus on that capital planning with the free cash, maintaining that all together, and having sort of more a longer-term sort of funding plan for capital items. And that's it. And I will send this to you so you can all see it a little better.
Marvelous, appreciate that. Okay, let's begin the questioning down at the left-hand side of the table. Jim, you have any questions, comments? Adam?
No, I'm good. It's glad to see everything trending in the right direction.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Just a basic question. Based on your expertise, is the town basically fiscally healthy for the most part?
Yes.
Because I know you had said we were trending in the right direction, but, a lot of people get confused by the numbers and everything.
Trending in the right directions for those particular metric
Yeah.
goals, but we are a very solid town.
So
We're
therefore,
healthy.
because I know the chair had asked at the last meeting about bond ratings and things like that. We're healthy enough to maintain a good bond rating if
Our
if
bond
when the
rating just
time
went up
comes-
last year, so yeah.
Well, I'm asking only because if we have to go out to bond for the roofs and things of that nature, that obviously impacts our ability to get a loan and then pay it back. We're pretty strong and healthy in that perspective.
Yes, the only impact that we would have in getting a loan is having it be high enough to be attractive. Because if banks aren't going to earn enough interest on it, obviously a $40 million bond is a lot more attractive to a bank than a $1.3 million bond. But no, our rating was we were just talking about this, It's AA1 is the highest, AA2, and then AA3. We were at AA3 last year. We came up to AA2.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we're almost as high as you can get.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Makes the price of borrowing money cheaper. As far as OPEB goes, I know during several meetings with the auditors in the past, they've told us we're doing a fantastic job in funding that, and by and large, way ahead of most communities in the state as far as, staying ahead and funding that. So I feel good that'll be another goal. It'd be nice to get it into the operating budget, if at all possible, this way. Can use free cash other ways, but thank you for the tremendous presentation. That was very insightful and very informative. I'm sure it took a lot of time and effort, and I want to thank you for that time and effort that you put into that, because it wasn't, I know those presentations can be very complex, especially when you're trying to tie out the numbers and make sure they all tie out. So kudos to you and your team for excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
If nobody else has any questions, we will move on to the next item, which is an update from our very talented and fantastic town administrator. Take it away, Miss Rebecca.
Am I in trouble? Thank you for the lovely introduction. So I just have a couple of very quick updates. As we were saying, capital improvement requests were due by departments today. We did receive a couple of requests. As Ellen had noted, we are looking at the town roof at the complex, so both the public safety building, this building, as well as the library. We are also looking at the town hall electrical upgrades that are necessary in all three of our buildings, and also including the generator project that was already funded by the town and upgrading that to gas instead of diesel, which it currently is. So we do have a plan in place to move forward with that project. So we are going to be meeting with Hilltop, who is our financial advisors, to take a closer look at strategies and figure out exactly if we were to go out to bond, what we would be looking at and what the implications would be. We're also trying to strategically take a look at our free cash monies and see how we can offset that. We are also working with the library. The library was given a generous donation of about $450,000 to go into improvements at the library. So how can we use those for some of the improvements that they need, in addition to helping offset some of the costs that we would have with the roof project, as well as the electrical upgrades that are necessary. Some of the other capital improvement requests that had come in are for the police cruiser, as Ellen mentioned, which is an annual request that comes through the police department, and also through the highway department. They have not submitted their final request, but they're looking for about $50,000 to $60,000 to replace all of their mowers, which they have not done in quite some time. We're very fortunate to have Bill Green, our foreman mechanic, who works on those pieces of equipment by hand by himself, and he's made those life expectancies last far longer than they should have. So unfortunately, he doesn't have enough magic to bring them back to life, so there are a few that we're going to have to cycle out. So those are also things that we need to consider as part of our capital improvement plan. We are still working with the Bagnell Elementary School, the Pawtucket Regional School District, in regards to their capital upgrades for the Bagnell Elementary School. We typically put aside about $65,000 a year for school improvements. We've been talking a little bit more about a strategic approach as to what actual capital upgrades are needed so that we can move forward in a more strategic manner. We've been working closely with Jonathan Seymour on exactly what those types of improvements would be and what they need to address sooner rather than later. So we're hoping that we can incorporate that into the final capital improvement plan, which I hope to present to the Select Board and the Finance Board in the December timeframe. So you will have all of those updates and all of that information shortly. We're just in the process of assembling such. And then I do not have any other updates at this particular point in time, and I can discuss the FY27 schedule at the next item if there's no questions.
All righty, we'll begin the questioning at this end of the table. Brian, anything?
A lot to absorb, but no, thank you.
Adam?
All set, sir?
Jim?
All set.
I just have one question. Bagnell improvements, can you expound on that at all? Capital improvement?
So we have had some communications with the school about some of the things that we've been working on. We did start to tackle all of the asbestos in the building, and we were doing classroom by classroom, and there were different flooring projects that were considered. We did a majority of that, but there are still some of the smaller classrooms that need to be considered. There are other improvements that we have made over the years. There were the courtyards that had the large trees. There were some issues with the courtyards not necessarily being maintained, and in all honesty, not really being designed for maintenance, and trying to make sure that we could eliminate the threats they pose with the branches falling into the windows and the roofs, et cetera. So there's some other capital upgrades that they would need. There's a handicap accessibility ramp that they had talked about. There's a small set of stairs that are in the middle of the school to connect one side to the other. They don't have a ramp available without going all the way around to the other side of the school. We did do recently the doors for the security purposes through the cafeteria to the gymnasium. There's additional plumbing issues that need to be addressed. That was something that we talked about ad nauseum in the beginning when we were talking about lead in the system and how we were going to replace that. Due to one of the select board members' recommendations, we were able to get another line into the building from something that was just recently done through the addition with the highway department, and that satisfied the drinking water aspect of things, but the other copper lines that are in the building were never taken care of. The fixtures were never taken care of, the toilets were never taken care of. So there's other capital improvements that have not necessarily been carried through. We also genuinely want to, here at Town Hall, in addition to upgrading the ones that we have at the Pines, look at the camera system over at the Bagnell Elementary School. We currently do not have a very thorough system set up. We do have the security in place to make sure that we're monitoring the building, but we would like to do better. And we think that with the technology that's come out, we would have an opportunity to explore that as well. So there's a bunch of different other capital upgrades in that regard that would be necessary for us to consider as part of our future planning efforts.
Cool. Does anybody really care if there's lead in the toilet water? Just saying. Never mind, you don't have to ask that.
When you're thirsty.
I don't even think you can get it from a swirly, right? Anything else? No? Okay, let's move right along. So I guess from the last meeting we had and conversations I've had with you, we're gonna change the process a little bit from what we've had in years past.
Correct.
Because according to the bylaws, it really falls under your purview right now. We used to meet individually with all the different department heads, explain them, have them explain to us their budgets and things. But that will no longer be the case. There's gonna be slight adjustments here. So I don't get it, too far off ahead of my skis. Why don't you take it away?
Of course. So that was one of the reasons that I also wanted to make sure that this was an agenda item, to make sure that we're all on the same page. Based upon the town administrator bylaw that was approved at town meeting and approved by the Attorney General, the authority to set the budget now falls with the town administrator to actually present a budget to the finance board and the select board. In the past, it was kind of something that was done by the finance director, but there was no explicit authority for them to create the budget document that you were reviewing. It was essentially the finance board that was internally and organically listening to departments and creating that budget, and the finance director was kind of leading that effort, but there was no real designated authority or designated process to allow for that to happen. So with the passage of the bylaw, it gives that authority directly to the town administrator to present the budget. It does not mean that that's the budget that has to go forward. It just means that that beginning stage, that budget book that you get, will be the town administrator's budget that they're presenting to you. The board still has the ability to meet with the departments. The board still has the ability to suggest changes, recommendations, ask questions, and revise as they see necessary to bring that forward to the select board for them to do the same thing, which will then go forward to the town meeting, and the town meeting will ultimately get a chance to vote. The difference really is that budget book that we just assemble everybody's request in, and we send it out to you, and we kind of give you a draft of our recommended budget. That's the part that's going to change. You'll still get the recommendation from each individual department, but the actual figures and the budget that's developed will be my own and what I'm suggesting that we move forward with. So that will be the starting point for the finance board to say, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. We listen to so-and-so, and we really think that that should be a priority of the town. That really correlates to a lot of the policy initiatives that we've been trying to support, and we would suggest that you increase that line item or decrease that line item or give this line item further consideration. That dialogue will still very much be the case. It's just, again, that first initial budget that you're receiving and all the documentation and support will be what I believe that would be in the best interest of the town moving forward based upon what we do on a day-to-day here at Town Hall. So the timeline that I have assembled for you that here this evening kind of goes through that process, which again is very similar to what you originally had. So we would still send out the budget instructions, the policy priorities, and that would be distributed to the departments prior to Thanksgiving, which we typically do. We do have a bi-monthly team meeting that we do, and I would like to take an opportunity to use the one that's scheduled in November as a kickoff meeting with all the departments so that I can share with them the forms that they will need to submit and go over the instructions and go through the process so that if anyone has any questions or feedback or things that we can try and incorporate, we can do so in person at that meeting. And then, as always, my door would be open if anybody had any more specific questions that they wanted to address. And then the next step would be for them to submit their budgets, which would be at the end of December, which again is very standard, it's very typical for what we have seen in the past. At that point in January, I would invite those departments to come sit with myself and the town accountant, which we did last year as well, and kind of go into a little bit more detail about what they're looking, what they're requesting, why they believe that this is necessary to increase this line item or decrease this line item. Maybe we're taking into consideration some other aspects that we could bring to the conversation that might help them further achieve their goals. So we would do that in January. Well, at the same time, at that point, we'll also be looking at the revenue projections, which usually don't necessarily get kind of finalized as it goes through the process. It's the state legislature, which have the state aid numbers, and then also getting the apportionments from Essex County Regional Retirement, the GIC. So we'll be assembling all of that information in the background. But during that process, the departments will also be invited to the finance board, as they typically have been, to have a meeting, an open meeting, a public meeting, where the public can also listen to each individual department, share with the finance board what their requests are, what they're looking to do, and what they would like the town to support at town meeting, because ultimately it's the residents that will vote on the budget. And so after that point and around the March timeframe, I hope to have a finalized budget with all of the details, just like I said, a finalized budget book that I will then present to both the finance board and the select board. Then the finance board and the select board, whether you choose to do it jointly or whether you choose to do it individually, we'll have an opportunity to go through that, and we'll start to really pick it apart and figure out if there's things that they would like to change and how they would like to go about that. And then what will end up happening is that they'll approve that final budget, whatever that may be, and that budget will be made available to the public via the website as well as in paper print, and it will also be sent out to the department so that they're aware of the decision that has been made by the finance board as well as the select board. And then we'll also work to finalize the warrant, which you all know is, again, another lengthy process that also coincides with the budget process for town meeting. And that will be done by early April, as it's going to be required to, since we have to post it 14 days prior to town meeting. And then we will have the final book, and the finance board will still put forward their recommendation to town meeting, but as part of their recommendation, as support document, the actual budget book will be included. So a lot of the feedback that we heard last time at town meeting was that people wanted a line item budget to see exactly what was going on. And so the budget book that we'll finalize, that we'll create together, that will be the town administrator, the finance board, and the select board, that final version will be included with the finance board recommendations to town meeting. So people have that as a supplemental document to the warrant that they receive at town meeting. And this year's town meeting will be on April 27th. So again, it's very similar to what we have in the past. We just won't have that, that binder or that final book that we received early in January. I'll be making the presentation a little later, which was done last year too, since our numbers were not really final. The big difference is really just my ability and my capacity to put forward something that's my own, that I can argue as to why I'm doing it, why I would recommend it, why from a financial sense I think this makes forward. Taking a comprehensive look at the town as a whole, not just the police or the fire or the accountant or the treasurer. What makes sense for everyone? How do we have to all work together in order to make things happen? Because a lot of times people will say, what the assessor's just the assessor. without the assessor, we wouldn't have assessed values, we wouldn't have valuations, we wouldn't be able to collect taxes. That office is a crucial player in what we do on a day-to-day basis. And without having the ability to argue and advocate from a holistic standpoint, it makes it really difficult to give you an end product that makes sense. And so this is my opportunity to do that, while you still have the ability, again, to review, edit, recommend, change, and, you know, do as you see fit, both the finance board and the select board. So, while a little different, and I think overall, relatively the same process.
Okay. Jim, any questions?
Yeah, so when you initially get the budgets from the, do you review them and check, do you talk to the department heads if you see red flags that they're asking for? So you kind of preliminary do that. Well, that's good. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Makes you a strong town administrator, which I think we should be heading towards. So,
Agreed.
keep it up.
I got nothing really. It's pretty well laid out and organized, and just follow the list. Everything will go wonderfully.
Right.
Yeah, outside of your reasoning as it pertains to the open meeting laws, you know, having residents be here when we talk to the departments, my question to you is this: from a functional point of view, is there really need for that to happen anymore? In other words, if you're spearheading the budget and you are interacting with each department, and ultimately, at the end of the day, you're the one that's presenting that data to the finance board, is there a functional need for that? Outside of transparency reasons, I get that, but outside of that, does that hold you where it makes your job more difficult, harder? Or does it add a level of complexity to us? Because now, we just deal with you in that perspective, if that was the case, if that was to work. But right now, or last year, we'd have each department in front of us, they're advocating for what they want. You know, that may not jive, like you said, with what these people over here need. So I'm just asking you from a functional point of view, does that add more complexity to your ability with this new bylaw as town administrator?
Honestly, a little bit, because I find that people don't like the word no. So when you tell people, no, I do not agree with increasing this line item, or no, while I understand that that might be an important priority of yours, like we just talked about from a larger perspective, you have to fit that in with other requests that might be, I think Bill always says it, like nice to have, but, or I forget the phrase, but nice to have, but you don't need it. Like, so going forward and identifying what are your needs versus what are your wants and what we can accommodate with the revenue, being thoughtful and making sure that the taxpayer dollars are spent thoughtfully. Because I understand personally how, you know, hard it is to pay your taxes and work a full-time job and be like, what did I really take in as my own profit at the end of the day? So I don't want to have to say no. And I think that, you know, that's my job. But when certain departments have an ability to come in and circumvent my decision utilizing other boards to do so, it becomes very challenging. But at the same time, I do note the aspect of transparency, and while it might add a layer of difficulty, I think it's still important. So it's not to say that it's not important, but to answer your question honestly, yes, it sometimes adds that layer of complexity, because if they don't like what I say, they'll come to the board and want the board to change it, and that puts the board in a difficult situation. But at the same time, the board also signed up to make those hard decisions too. And at some point, the board needs to say either yes or no. And that can be very much to me to say, no, we don't agree with you. And I accept that. Okay, so then what can we do to make it work? So it is that give and a take.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Mr. Chair, if I may just say, as a side note to that, I agree with Jim that I think as a board, we need to support the town administrator as a strong administrator and allow her that ability to work within her departments to work out the financial matters and to come before us. Allow them to still come before us like we have in the past. But I think we need to support that, the town administrator in that capacity, so that she has more authority over those departments in that perspective.
Preaching to the choir, I've considered, first time I met Miss Oldham, I called her the Miss Mona Lisa Vito of town planning. I've never been disappointed in any moment since. I think she's a fantastic addition to the town. What she brings in and what she does far outweighs her cost and benefits. She's been an extraordinary employee to the town for many years, and I hope that relationship will continue for many, many more.
Well, thank you.
I'm practicing for my Oscars MC. I just have one question. So we will have the opportunity to interview the departments, should we so choose? Is that what we say? Or we'll bring them in anyways?
I think we bring them in anyway to, again, provide an open forum for them to advocate for their departments, which they're hired to do, and they should be advocating for their department, and put it in a setting, again, where, you know, the public can participate as well if the board so chooses. So I definitely think we'll invite them in. As soon as I get the request will also be shared with the finance board, so you will have those collectively. You'll just have like a department requested budget. So you will have that documentation, and I do think that you should have that dialogue with those departments as well.
So we're looking at a time frame between late January and the entire month of February.
And we can push it out to March, because usually we do have a couple of meetings in March as well.
Okay, so I'll get together with you at a later date to discuss how we'll implement that between those dates.
Yes.
And get everybody in. Okay,
And this is just a draft, so we can be flexible with those dates as long as we, you know, kind of provide departments with an understanding of the timeline that we're putting forward.
I agree. Okay, perfect. Any other follow-up questions, Jim?
No.
Adam?
Nope.
Brian?
No, you answered my question. Thank you, Rebecca, very, very much.
Okay, if you're all through with that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an update from the Community Preservation Committee.
All right.
Representative, which I think that's you.
That's me. Not nearly as lengthy as last month. A couple new projects have surfaced that potentially may be going for funding this go-around. One is the resurfacing of a basketball court at the Bagnell, and another one is some event lighting and power at VZ Park. Details are kind of limited, more ideas that, hey, we want to go with this more so than a full-on proposal. But other than that, and all the other ones that we mentioned last month are still kicking.
Okay, great. Again, let's try not to make this an acquisition of the poor man, but Brian, do you have any questions on?
No, I assume when Adam gets updates, he'll make us aware of what they are, so.
So
they
our
have questions.
deadline for final applications is December 1st, so, you know, the next month or so, we should be really whittling them
Yeah.
down.
Great. Jim?
On the bathrooms bathroom at Shanahan Field, is there
It's-
a request to replace?
There is
it?
a request to
'Cause
replace
That
that.
bathroom's only like 9 years old.
Yeah.
You know, how much are they asking for?
No, I was gonna be tested. I think it was 120-ish. But we, as the committee, we asked them to
So
also,
they're not working right now.
they're in various states of disrepair, and they were never really the right thing to be put there to begin with. As a committee, we asked them to also look into getting Washington Park into it as well. Maybe get a, you know, bundle rate buying them. They're looking to buy some prefabricated bathrooms and just set them into place. So, more to come.
Well, we've been real generous with Shanahan Field.
They got a real nice parking lot.
Yes, they do.
All right.
Seeing as there's nothing else, I don't have any questions for you. I know you're in a difficult spot, and there's a lot more to come, and I imagine the next couple of meetings we'll get more details on those items. Moving along to the next item The Trashing Committee Recycle Representative, that would be me. The committee has been disbanded, so I have nothing to talk about, so we'll move right on. We'll plan the next meeting, I guess, is what we're gonna do now. So I'm looking at,
Third Wednesday is November 19th.
yeah,
And I would make the suggestion to move the meeting to 6:30.
oh, absolutely. Traffic is just getting brutal lately, I don't know. I thought we were laying everybody off, I don't know, maybe they hired them back, I can't figure it out. So does the 19th work for everybody? When is, okay, Thanksgiving is the following week, so that gets us in. Brian?
Yes, November 19th at 6:30 PM works for me, yes.
Jim?
Yeah,
Adam, oh, you suggested it, so I think we're good. So let's make that a hard date on November 19th, 2025, and we will change the time to accommodate us working folks and move it to 6:30 PM. Jim, you don't mind, do you?
no, it's fine.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting. We'll start at this end.
Yes, I do have a question, Rebecca. My question is regards to the tax bill, the property tax bill. On the excise tax for your car, there is a line item called out for the valuation, so you can see based on what the car is valued at and what the tax is, and you can figure the math out. For some reason, the tax bill for the property does not show the evaluation for the property. Is there a reason why they don't show that no more? And also, along with that, I know you can go on the website, I know it's already on the bill, but they don't tell you what percentage of the CPA is being utilized to figure the math out. So I'm just curious to know why those two items aren't called out on the tax bill.
I'm not sure of that answer. I will need to check with the treasurer collector, and I can get back to you.
Okay.
And I think CPA is 3%.
Well, it's supposed to be, but I've read
3%
somewhere,
after the first 100,000.
is that what it is? Okay, well, anyway, it's not on there if somebody wanted to do the math, but it's really the valuation, because the excise bill has that on there. And I find it to be a little lacking that if I look at, okay, what are they valuing my property at? It's not there no more. So I'm just curious. If you could find out, I'd appreciate it.
100%.
Other than that, I got nothing else.
They don't
Thank
want-
you.
They don't want to tell you. Adam?
Were we going to discuss the correspondence from the Council on Aging, or put that on for next meeting?
I sent that out as basically an FYI, but I think that letter is basically rendered moot by the new process that the town administrator, through the town bylaws and the Secretary of State's authorization, has been kind of made moot. I mean, some of the
There was-
suggestions.
There was one thing in there that just kind of struck me, was the appeal deadline. I didn't know we were doing appeals. I feel like,
We don't do appeals.
yeah, I didn't like that in there.
Yeah, again, I just passed that out for an FYI to be total transparent.
Noted.
But in light of the new process based on the town's bylaws,
But I think the
it
document
really doesn't quite fit.
Rebecca did
Agreed.
answers a lot of those questions.
But, again, every department will have the opportunity, as always, to make their case, their best case, and every department should have the understanding by this time that we don't sell cheeseburgers. We can't raise the price of our cheeseburgers to raise more money to offset the increase in costs. So as long as we're all in agreement on that, and we reasonable in our expectations of what the company, what the town can afford, then I think we'll all get along very well. If not, reality will be a very hard lesson. Jim?
I'm all set.
Okay. Seeing as we have come to the end of our meeting,
We'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:20 PM.
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate all your efforts It really is. If you didn't show up, we wouldn't have had a meeting today, so really kudos to you for your commitment to the town and to this committee. It really is.
Oh, we got a little
Appreciate it.
concerned, we thought you ran into somebody with a flat.
Recording in progress.